Hello, and welcome back to the Field Coach Experts podcast, where we dig into real world experiences of field coaches, franchise business coaches, whatever you call them, as well as franchisors and operations teams who are out there doing the work every day. And today's topic is another one I'm excited about. It's all around franchise support effectiveness. So we're digging in, but today we're doing this actually through the eyes of a franchise business coach. And so that's someone that is supporting franchisees week after week. And so today, excited to have someone that has been in our community for a while. We're going to dig into what that means. And so Jake Vinluan. Is that right, or did I butcher that, Jake?
It's Vinluan, but it's okay.
Vinluan. I should
It's
have
all
asked
good.
you.
It's all good.
I should have asked you.
You're
I am
fine.
the worst when it comes to pronunciation, and I have got French speakers in my house, and they are always making fun of me because I cannot pronounce certain names. So thank you for that. I really, really apologize. I should have double checked that with you. But you
You're
are a
fine.
franchise business coach with Blue Moon Estate Sales, and you are also a recent graduate of our field coach certification program called the Accelerator. So that experience alone, I think you're going to give us some really, really great perspective, a grounded perspective of somebody who's in the trenches day to day. And so you can see it all in practice, not just theory. And I'm so excited for our audience to hear from you. So welcome, Jake, to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Jen.
Awesome. So why don't you, just for listeners who are meeting you for the first time, just like I am, Jake and I just met. I was recommended by our director of education that Jake would be an amazing guest on our podcast. So we're meeting for the first time as well. So I think myself and our listeners would love to hear right from you a little bit about your background in franchising and what led to your current role with Blue Moon Estate Sales.
Yeah, definitely. So, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to be on this podcast today. I've actually been in franchising as long as I can remember. That's always been my big boy job. I actually started at Liberty Tax. So if you Google me, you could see me in that Statue of Liberty costume. There's a time for everything, and there was a time for that. I didn't know that was a thing that, especially if you ask my wife, I don't have any coordination at all, but I actually trained that. I would teach 3 or 4 times in Vegas and then go back and forth on the East Coast and just throughout the country teaching guerrilla marketing. But I had started in franchise development, just filing things and putting the sign here, these little stickers. And eventually I got noticed and I became a guerrilla marketing coordinator. Didn't even know
Nice.
that was a thing.
Right?
And started traveling or whatnot. We were about to have our firstborn and we needed extra money. And it just made the most sense. And I learned so much about franchising. And that was like year one, year 2. So, and that was about like 15 years ago. So, you blink and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? So, I really love franchising. I just enjoy helping people. That's always been my thing. But if I can help them in business, and not have to do that 9 to 5 and be able to have more of a work-life balance, I'm all about that. Then I definitely want to contribute. And if you don't want more of a work-life balance, it really just depends on where you're at in your life, where I feel like I can coach you effectively. You may need a different type of coach if that's not something that you want, or if you let me know, I can probably cater and adjust according to what you need at that time. But yeah, now I'm in Blue Moon. I have one of my best friends. He works at Blue Moon, and he had told me about the job. I was trying to transition out of the mosquito industry that I had been in, and I wasn't sure if I was going to go back into the mosquito industry. But after talking to him and talking to our brand president, Bob Lang, I had decided that maybe this, and this was a good choice. Actually, one of my mentors in the franchising world, Kyle Beach, he had told me, he's like, you're really good at coaching, like, don't leave, you may want to reconsider this. And I think I just needed some time, especially being in the mosquito world for so long. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm glad that I made the move to join Blue Moon, to be a part of Best Life Brands, which I'm not regretting. In June it'll be year two, and it's been different. Coaching is still the same in franchising, but it's a different industry, and
Mhm.
I can say that I've truly enjoyed it.
Nice, nice. Well, let's, really look at, I'd love to understand or have our audience understand your role and what it looks like day to day, because understanding that coaching role is important, and people like to, especially if we've got other coaches who are listening, they like to see what how it changes, because we do make a lot of assumptions that we're all doing the exact same thing in the exact same way, and I think that is the big myth out there. So tell us what your day to day looks like and how you're supporting franchisees.
So my book of business is close to about 30 franchisees,
Okay.
and we have them scheduled. Usually, it's like depending on when they've joined. Maybe it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. We try to not go past that. You guys know that there are
Yep.
franchisees that don't want to talk ever,
Yep.
but that's usually what the frequency looks like. And we're going over action items from the prior call,
Hmm.
or we're adjusting based on, hey, this is something new that I want to do. I actually, after joining Blue Moon, one of the franchisees had mentioned, she said, "Oh, this is what I paid for," and I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And she goes, "I didn't have this before," and I said, "Oh, okay. I can't speak for before." And she was doing a call every month, but because she saw the effectiveness of it, she requested that we change the frequency to weekly. And then we've changed it again. We've changed it again, but because there were some things that she wanted to really key in on, as far as building a team
Hmm.
for her, for her empire, and so we were able to go towards that. So daily for me looks like, just depending if I have a coaching call with you or not, going through those action items, and then holding your feet to the fire,
Nice.
because I'm not going to waste time and have the same conversation over and over again. When I was in AC Inc., I had mentioned with the other coaches that if I jump on a call with you and you're still not, you still haven't completed the task for the last three times, we could end the call now, because we
Mhm.
don't need to waste any more time, or we need to change it and say, hey, guess what? I know I told you this is important, but we need to change this because it's not as important as it was. Of course, the tone looks a little different. I'm not usually a stickler, but if I need to adjust and be more firm, and you request that, then I can adjust to that. I know that it works for some people better than others, but usually my tone is usually soft, through
Mhm.
it, through everything. I try. Don't ask my wife that, but usually I try to have a really good tone.
Nice, nice. I'm gonna just close. I've got the sun coming in all of a sudden. There we go. I was beating in my eyes, so I needed to close my curtain. Um, so great. Thank you for that, Jake. And so from a day-to-day basis, talking about your coaching, you gave us a rundown of what looks like. Well, I want to shift from that a little bit and get away from coaching, because in a lot of brands, just coaching your franchisees is not all we do. And supporting franchisees is a variety of different things. So can you talk more about in Blue Moon, what are those other activities you do that could be considered, franchisee support that's not in the coaching realm?
I would say that, as coaches, we all, whether we like it or not, we're some kind of therapy for our franchisees.
Mm-hmm.
As I said before, work-life balance. I'm looking at you. I'm listening to your tone. I'm listening to, especially couples, if they're saying, "Oh, you could talk to them about that," and I'm like, "You live in the same house. You could talk to them about that." Those are things that I look. And my coaching style's a bit unorthodox, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say stuff like, when's the last time you went on a date night? And if they say,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember, or it's been a few months, then I'll say that it's crucial that this happens. I need you to understand that you in your marriage was before this company, it'll be there after. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need you hating it. I need you to reset. I need you to be re-energized, revitalized, and I need you to be able to go at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have those conversations, not here at Blue Moon, but a prior franchise that I was at. I remember telling a couple, because they just sound so burned out, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm going to turn off your system this weekend if you don't tell me that you guys went on a date night." And they're like, "You wouldn't do that." And I said, actually, I will. And I think that there's only one way to find out, and it's for you to tell me that you didn't. They didn't. They actually, they grew. They actually broke records
Oh,
for a year one franchisee. And this was when I was in the mosquito industry up north. They had 667 customers year one. And that was COVID year. And, like, they were just taking pictures like, hey, we're on date night. They would take pictures of them on date night. And
nice.
that customer count just went up.
Hmm.
It's so important to pour into you, and especially if you're married or in a relationship, to pour into that relationship. So that's something that I'm all for. When's the
Yeah.
last time you spent time with your kids? I don't want your kids. I don't want to contribute to your kids as a reminder of, yeah, my parent was a workaholic my whole life. And
Hmm.
for me to know that I had something to do with that, that's horrible. So I overemphasize that to say, hey, let's have conversations about your life
Hmm.
because your life bleeds into the business. It's one big
Nice.
thing, not separately. So,
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And we can, I was a franchisee for a couple of brands. We can get so tunnel vision and just everything is about the business because we're working so hard and we want to grow it and things can go, by the wayside and what's most important to us, which as you've said are, our marriages, our kids, our balance. Absolutely. So I love that you're a driver of that, and a good reminder for franchisees. So if we look beyond, working with the franchisees directly in that sense, and a lot of coaches are involved in things like training sessions, onboarding of franchisees, projects that are going to move things forward for franchisees. What are some of those other things that maybe at Blue Moon that maybe you've worked on, or you do work on, or you do have a part of that is separate from the actual coaching piece?
I would say, like, some of the projects, like, for example, we deal a lot with real estate agents, and, we've just been talking about how we could teach accredited information to them.
Hmm.
And there's that the separation between franchisor and franchisee, right? So working on specific project to help the franchisee
Yeah.
set up for success, right? Because what's going to be appealing to the real estate agency when you tell them, oh, like, I have a presentation? Who doesn't have a presentation, right? It's probably a PowerPoint presentation.
Hmm.
But if it actually gives you some credits, then all of a sudden it's a bit more attractive. So that's something that I've been working on. It's been an ongoing project.
Hmm.
And we're hoping that each franchisee on an individual level, they can adjust what the template looks like, and then they can submit it. And then, you get all the, red ink to what you can and can't say. But it's
Hmm.
been a learning process, because I have talked to even real estate friends of mine, and they're just kind of like, oh, yeah, I mean, it would be more appealing if, there were credits involved, but at the same time, it really just depends on where they're at in life. If you have
Hmm.
to be at the office anyways, well, it's not going to hurt to have a Danish in your hand and have to listen to a presentation versus, not having to do it at all or
Right.
whatnot. So, I mean, it really just depends. But those are side things, and then sometimes, even with the separation, like, you have to, when it comes stateside, you have to ask the right questions, and you have to put it on the franchisee. Hey, guys, this point of contact told me this information, but
Hmm.
you have to get that information, and you have to hear it because it's on you, not
Right.
us.
Right.
Right? That's something I'm dealing with the state right now, and I want to get all the answers because I want my franchisees to be set up for success, but they also have to be reminded of why they bought into a franchise
Yep.
so they can have their own business. So I work on these side projects, but at the end of the day, it's on them to essentially complete it or get the information for themselves. So I'll
Right.
give them the mask, and then they'll have to verify it, and they can put on a spreadsheet. I talked to Jane Doe on X date at the Department of Revenue or whatever it is.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
on them. They can't say my coach said, because there's legalities to that. So thank God I don't have to do that.
Right. Right.
Wash my hands from it.
No, that's a good point. And I think there's a fine balance between helping, supporting franchisees by seeing things that's needed in the whole franchising community, as in our franchisees. They need this particular tool, or they need a connection made that's going to open doors for everyone, with a particular supplier, or something that an association, just depends on your brand,
Absolutely.
of course, right? And it's these things that we can do for the collective community, building out certain tools that are just going to help them. But to your point, they have to do the work, or they've got to take that and put it into action. We can't do that for them. But I believe a certain piece of supporting our franchisees is understanding what are some needs that they all have, that we can fill in that gap by creating the tool, even creating a committee of franchisees to get together to solve maybe a problem that everybody's having, or creating something, right? So
Hmm.
is there anything else in a blue moon like that you or your team of coaches, or anything that you've got, have you set up any committees, or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have the Franchise Advisory Council, which,
Mm-hmm.
they're in charge of different regions. So that's one of our things, and we meet
Okay.
up once a month with them or whatnot. And then we also have just kind of, we have a technology committee, we have a marketing
Mm-hmm.
committee, we have a few different committees where
Right.
they meet up and then they talk about current events in the Blue Moon world, or how we can adjust something that we're currently using
Mm-hmm.
so it could be more effective for the franchisees present and onboarding.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what about any key tools that you've created? And I see brands creating things like KPI trackers, or community marketing planners and budgets and things like that. Are there key tools that you guys have created, and either you've just passed on to the franchisees, or maybe you use in your coaching?
So right now we actually have something that's a key tool. Is We're about to present a new AI tool
Oh,
that,
okay.
yeah, they, it's been shown, like, people are using it, but they're actually going to unravel it next month, like, to the whole system. The system knows it exists. The system has been able to sit through demos, but it should help with labor cost.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so that we're super excited about. And, it's just like getting the kinks out of a new technology piece.
Mhm.
Anytime anything comes out, you have people that are in the pilot phase, and then you have people actually doing it, and then you have people talking about it. And then now it's time, like, we're in the phase of everybody, let's try to break this thing, to see, how effective it actually is, and then we can learn from it. So that right now is going to save people um, time and labor, which is money.
Mm.
So, everybody's super excited about that. And then you get feedback from some people that are really like, oh, I don't know if this is really going to be as effective as you guys say it's going to be. But you need those kind of people in every group, right? They're the
Mhm.
skeptics, and
Mhm.
we just need to prove them wrong. But we need their feedback to show why maybe it's not going to help us, and then
Mhm.
prove why it is going to help us.
Right.
So that's one of the tools that we really use right now. Yes, we're going into, like, benchmarking finally, so we're
Mhm.
using Fathom. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about these things or whatnot, but, like,
Mhm.
we're,
Yeah.
we're finally going to be benchmarking. And I know in any franchise world that I've been in, that's always the goal, to get there. So we can grow and we can learn from our peers, right? We can learn
Yes.
collectively as a system, and then we can learn from our neighbors, and we could, see trends and different things. So I'm super excited about that. We just need to make sure that these business owners plug in and get set up properly. But that's where we're at right now, and that should be a wealth of knowledge, and it should be helpful to the whole system.
Yeah. Can we dig into that a little bit more? Because I think that that's something that um, a system who is really providing effective support for their franchisees. That's one of our questions when we're talking to a new system that might be interested in working with us is, do you have your KPIs, your set of KPIs, and do you have benchmarks to go along with them? So can you just talk about maybe the importance of those, and how you intend on using those with franchisees, and what you hope the outcome's going to be?
So it's really, really fresh. We literally just had, like, a call. So our CFO was going through it, and, some people were like, "Oh, he's going too fast." Of
Okay.
course, it's going to be fast because it's going to be new. It's going to be scary for some people. when people in the system, I mean, this isn't any franchise system, there is a group of people when they hear about numbers, they lose their minds. Like they
Mm,
run. I've had franchisees just stop talking to me, period. Like,
yeah,
not talking to you anymore. And I'm like, I'm trying to help, but we
yeah,
need to see your numbers and we
yes,
need you to plug in these numbers. I'm not trying to like find out if you're doing anything crazy, like you shouldn't be, but at the same time, like, this helps you first of all,
hmm,
and then it helps your neighbors and your peers, like, and it allows longevity for the franchisor based on what we're doing. Because if we don't see everybody's numbers, yes, you get feedback from the top performers and you
hmm,
get them plugging in their numbers, but at the same time, what else can we be adjusting in that middle, in that middle?
yes,
So you always have the bottom half that are never going to do anything.
hmm,
Sorry if you're that part of that group. It's just,
hmm,
hey, you're not doing anything. Then you
yeah,
have the top half, whether they're coached by me or anybody, they're going to be successful. Then you
yes,
have the middle, that's where it's counting, right? But I
absolutely,
need you to plug in those numbers. I need
yeah,
you to look at this. I need you to do comparisons because you could also set up like, um, they're not performance groups, but little groups specific to your territory.
hmm,
And then you can see what you're doing. And then you can compare because it doesn't show the names of the franchisees unless you reveal that, which I feel like I'm going to tell my franchisees, hey, we have nothing to lose. You might as well show who you are. This
hmm,
should grow you. But at the same time, like, look, here are our key performance indicators. Like, you guys need to be, that should be your bar, at least
right,
minimum, right? And if you want to go further than that, let's put that stretch goal there, and then that stretch goal. But we have to make things happen. We have to be needle movers, as my mentor would say. Like, where did you move the needle? That's like his line. I'm like, oh my
love it,
gosh. But it's bled in with me, and that's why I'm saying, like, if we're not if we're not if we're not doing our research on where we're at in our own business, if we don't know,
hmm,
like, how effective are we? How
hmm,
profitable are we? And if we don't know the answer to that, ugh,
yeah,
that's horrible. And there's a lot of business owners that don't know. They're just like, oh, I'm having a lot of sales, and it's like, okay, well, how much of that is going out in your labor costs? How
right,
much is that going to your material costs? And it's like, well, we got another sale, and I'm like, you're avoiding the question. I need you to answer the question.
yeah,
And then all of a sudden it becomes, I'm busy, and it's like, oh no, please don't do this to me. But it happens more times than not.
yeah,
We as coaches, we need to exhaust resources and continue to, you know, um, beat a dead horse and say, hey, look, I really want to help you, but at this rate, we have to have this conversation. You will fail if you don't adjust. I
hmm,
don't even need to know your numbers. I just know there's a fear, and we're identifying it, and it will destroy your business.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think you said so much there. An important element is benchmarks can be financial, but they can also be KPI related, as far as what's the average or what should be tracking for number of leads and conversion rates and, average sale and all of these things, because us franchisees, we want to know, not all of us, to your point, but a lot of us, where do we stack up against everyone else? If
Yeah.
we don't have a benchmark, we don't know. Are we doing well? Are we not doing well? Like, where are we at? So having those benchmarks that's based on historical data, very, very important. One thing I will say as a best practice that, again, when we're working with franchise systems, is because you can get franchisees who are afraid of the numbers, afraid of the financials, and they're not comfortable with them. Excuse me, they're not well. They don't know how to read a P&L. They don't even know what a P&L is
Yeah,
sometimes.
can you buy them at Walmart, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And so the number one best practice that we will say is right from the jump, you get your franchisees comfortable and manage expectations that they are going to need to be looking at their numbers. And then we teach them the how. And you've got to do that. You got to talk about that in the friend dev process. You got to build that into your initial training and onboarding and ramp period. And right from the beginning, they get it because we've done a good job of teaching it to them. And then our coaching is always reinforcing that because we're looking at these numbers all of the time. So those are just a few little kind of best practice points. So I want to move through to, I'm a big proponent of learning from our mistakes. And as a franchisee, over the years. I made a million of them. And one of the things I loved doing was coaching and training and mentoring, especially after I sold my business and I became a business coach, is here's what I did. Here's why it was terrible. And how can you not make these same mistakes? And this is essentially actually what we do at AC Inc., helping brands where we know what the best practices are and what lots of brands, the mistakes they've made. So let us help you not waste the time and money and do it right from the beginning. So when if we ask you, or if I ask you, Blue Moon, what were when you were supporting your franchisees, just not necessarily just in coaching, but just that's all those supporting elements. What do you think some of the mistakes that you guys made over the years, because it's all a learning curve that you've identified and then now have put some measures in place to, adjust and fill in some of those gaps?
I would probably say training, and not any detriment to who's currently training, but
Yep.
as training has changed, to let the system know that training has changed, right? So, for example, even though there's ongoing training, training's always changing, but somebody that took training 3 years ago versus now, they're
Hmm.
not up to date on
Right.
what the new things are, but that
Yes.
could be effective for them, and that could actually save them money,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
So, but it takes work, right? Because the trainer, she's amazing. Her name's Kayla. She's phenomenal. She, like, okay, let's just say something changes with this training, but when you get off of that training call and you get pulled in 50 million
Hmm.
directions, it's like you have to have the discipline or the reminder to say, hey, I need to change that because that affects the whole system, and the whole
Right.
system should know that, or new
Yes.
employees of existing franchisees. But like nobody's going to do that on purpose and say, "Well, I'm not going to let anybody know about this." It's just work. It's kind of like updating that operations manual that every franchisor has
Hmm.
to do every. You should do it every year, I believe. But like how much work goes into that and actually
Yeah.
making that happen. And that's not easy.
Hmm.
Those are one of the things, and I feel like that's one of the things too that before, after I got here, is I guess the definition of what a franchise business coach is. I think
Hmm.
sometimes there's a lack of that, maybe. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that, and you know this, especially being a franchisee, Jen, but like
Hmm.
sometimes people are selective in what they're hearing.
Yep.
So, like, oh, I have a coach that's going to do everything anytime I want them to do. Like, no, they're not going to do that. They have a life as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as long as you show up, your coach is going to help you.
Hmm.
And it's beyond, it's probably anything, especially being new into the business world, like beyond anything you could fathom. Like, your coach should be able to adjust their coaching. That's something I really learned in AC Inc. There's so many different
Hmm.
things that we could adjust depending on who the franchisee is. But we need to figure that out. And how does that happen? In conversation and in relationship building, right?
Hmm.
If I don't have a relationship with you, I'm probably not going to be able to say what you need. But the more that I talk to you and the more that I listen to you, well, listen first, right? We need to listen first.
Yeah.
Then I can cater to what you really need. And then some of the stuff I can just identify as fear and say, we'll get there. But I need to hear what your thoughts are first on what you're
Hmm.
getting. And I think that not just Blue Moon, but just as a whole in the franchising world, we may need to reset that. Maybe even at conference, hey, your franchise business coach. This is what they do. This
Yeah.
is what the brand president does. But here is something in franchising, especially for starters. We realize that everybody's wearing more than the hats that they're supposed to be wearing, and then things become convoluted a little bit. So,
Yeah.
I'm here telling you to stop wearing all the hats, but here I am wearing all the hats. And here
Right.
my brand president is wearing all the hats, right?
Yeah.
My brand president is being the cashier right now because, this is what we have, and we can't do that if I'm going to tell you how to do a certain thing and not even do it ourselves.
Yeah.
Anyways,
No, great. That was great. I want to just back up to, because I lived this too. Your point about the training and how I'm a franchisee from 5 years ago, and things have evolved and happening, and new franchisees are being trained in a different way, or there's new things happening. I can't tell you how many times I would go to conference or something and hear through the grapevine, and I'd be like, I didn't know that. And now I am not saying that my brand, my franchisor did not message that. I don't know if they did or not, because sometimes us franchisees need to hear things 7 different times in 7 different ways before it actually sinks in. I do get that. But I think that potentially we're also maybe not doing a great job of messaging that back and making sure that everybody totally understands what's changed or what's included, whatever it might be, and the why behind it, so that now we can, and then our coaches helping us also that messaging and what maybe we need to change in the way we're doing it or adopt this new system or whatever it might be. So I loved that point. I know we do have to wrap up, but I loved your little shout out about some things that you learned at AC Inc. You took our field coach certification program, the accelerator, and where we are really helping coaches with those coaching skills and techniques. Can you just talk a little bit about what else that you really learned during the program that shifted the way you coach franchisees to be maybe a little bit more effective?
Yeah, one of the biggest things, and it was just kind of like one of those aha moments when I was talking or Stephanie was talking, is I think that based off of some of the bad taste in one of my former franchisors that I worked at, that I was taking some of that to my coaching style. And I had to realize that, like, hey, you know what? It wasn't really hurting anybody, but I don't think it was necessary, and it could, depending, I had to like self-reflect and say, oh, do I have a bad taste in my mouth? And if so, I need to get through that because my franchisees deserve the best. And I don't want them to, have this taste in my mouth, even though they have no clue where it's coming from. So that's something where I just have to look in the mirror and, realize that, yeah, there's like one or two things where I was like, oh, I have a taste. And
Yeah.
I have to wash that out. Because how am I going to teach you how to overcome something as a franchisee if I haven't even overcame myself? I'm not a hypocrite, so I don't want to do that. And, for me to be the most effective, I have to make sure that my plate is clean.
Yeah.
And I think some of the things when we were having some of those group calls on AC Inc. or whatnot, I would just think, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think I might have a taste in my mouth.
Mm.
And then I'd have to write down some notes because I don't know. It's funny because you get the material afterward, but I'm like writing like the whole time too, as though I'm gonna miss something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, I think it's just like a pain point for me. Like if I missed one thing, but the information was so good, like everything that we had, and if I'm going to use a toolbox or use anything that I'm learning, I want to use it at 100% and not
Yeah.
87.
Right.
So, yeah, I think I don't know. There was so much from AC Inc. that I was just kind of like, we try to implement this with my counterpart before because he did it before me, but just because of the busyness, we didn't really. Some of us tried to use it, but now I get another go, especially after going through the course.
Yeah.
So I'm using different things to make sure that I I don't know their investment. Let's just say that my brand president, he invested in me
Yeah.
into doing this. So I don't want to just, oh, we're done now. Now we get the certificate and now I'm just finished with it. Especially with AC Inc. They have ongoing things, right, where I can be a part of the
Yeah.
round tables. Like
Yeah.
for me, like I would be an idiot not to utilize those things. By the way, I need to
Right.
email. I need to email Stephanie about that because I need to get that. I think somebody in the group said something about the invites, but like
Okay.
I need to be able to get to those things
Yeah.
because that's accessible to me. Why wouldn't I be using it? There's
Yeah.
no way I ever know it all, but
Mm-hmm.
if I can be with other franchise business coaches
Mm-hmm.
in different worlds, there are some things that are, across the board, and we could learn from each other based on how we've experienced, our franchisees, and that's one of the biggest things that I loved. I didn't know if I had the commitment for twice a week,
Yeah.
but AC Inc. was very accommodating and just letting them know, hey, like here, if you, like, I'm not going to be here because I'm traveling or we have our conference or whatnot, but to be able to play it back like a day later and watch it
Yeah.
and, just jump right in as though I didn't miss anything. So, and accidentally even talking to the screen from time to time, but, yeah. Anyways, it was, yeah.
Good. Well, I'm thrilled to know how much you found it valuable, and that yes, please come to our field coach roundtable. They're free. They're on Thursdays at 3:30, and I will give you some insider information. We've got a couple of exciting things that we're launching, hopefully in January for you accelerator graduates. So
Okay.
watch for that
Yeah.
to come. You'll
I
get
want to give a shout out to
yeah.
Stephanie though. Stephanie, you are amazing. I think I said this on the call, but everybody, any franchise business coach, if your company will pour into you guys and invest into AC Inc. Like no, they didn't pay me to do this or anything like that. It's so worth it. Stephanie is like so full of life, and
Yeah.
her humor is crazy, and it's my kind of crazy. So I loved her, and I even said, maybe we should do something like this, and even come back every few years to do it
Yeah.
again because it's so valuable, and I could see that it's forever changing, even as we were doing some of the sessions. So I'm
Yeah.
so thankful to
Amazing.
you, Jen, and the group in AC Inc. So,
Well, we're
anyways,
we're thrilled, and we didn't, when we first created this, we had no idea the impact it was going to have. And so we're just thrilled for all people like you who've participated and really gotten the most that you can from it. So thank you for participating and obviously taking what you're learning and running with it. Because everything that we do, really, everything that AC Inc. does is absolutely to help franchisees grow, be profitable, and be happy in their business decision of owning this franchise. That's really ultimately the end goal for us, and that's why so many of us are former franchisees and so on, because we're really in this mission. And the way we do that is by helping field coaches be effective and helping franchise systems be effective. So, thank you so much, Jake.
yeah,
This has been wonderful. Have loved this conversation. And for any of you out there listening, if you want to know more about our field coach certification, the accelerator program, or anything, our performance groups for franchisees, or how we help you actually implement our strategic growth coaching framework, which Jake would have learned also on the accelerator, into your system. Please do reach out, because we're all about strengthening franchise systems again for the benefit of our franchisees. So visit us at fieldcoachexperts.com, and then until next time, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.